This week I got to talk with Jennifer Oko about her new novel, Just Emilia, which is mind-bendy and emotionally poignant and just very unique. The past, present, and future collide in a DC metro elevator as three women get caught up in a gripping time travel tale of memory, emotion, and unspoken truths about their shared history. When Emilia Fletcher finds herself trapped inside a Washington, D.C. metro elevator, getting out is the least of her problems. Sharing the confined space with her are a troubled teenager plagued by suicidal thoughts, and Millie, an elderly woman yearning to mend ties with her estranged daughter. As the hours drag on, hunger, exhaustion, and panic set in, revealing an almost incomprehensible truth. They are the same person. Locked in an uncompromising match of memories, three women excavate and attempt to reckon with the shared shame and suffering stemming from an unresolved trauma that has cast a profound shadow over their lives. Brimming with biting humor, compassion, and quick-witted insight, Just Emilia is a remarkable journey of self-discovery. I had so much fun talking to Jennifer about this book, learning about where she got the inspiration, how she approached writing three characters who are the same character but are also not the same character, and how she decided to kind of mine grief and trauma through this really unique plot structure. That being said, let's hear from Jennifer. Well, I am super excited to be here with Jennifer Oko, and we're going to be talking today about your newest novel, Just Emilia. But before we dive into that book, I did want to get to know you a little bit as a writer. So what was your first moment where you were like, I want to write something or I want to be an author?
It's funny because, of course, I've been listening to some of your other podcasts, and I was like, I knew you were going
Yeah.
to ask me that. And I don't have a really good answer, except that when I was about 10, my
Mm-hmm.
best friend and I tried to write a book together. And I
Oh, that's
remember it
fun.
was called It's Nice to Be Together. And the sort of protagonist was the together monster, and it was all about our friendship. And we
Oh,
never finished the book, but I think
yeah.
that it maybe like it touched something. But the writing, the actual like fiction writing actually kicked into gear even before my memoir. I mean, I published a memoir years ago, but before that, when I started my career, I was a
Mm-hmm.
television news producer, and I was starting out as a journalist. And facts facts can kind of get in the way of a good story. And I think I just needed a creative outlet.
Yes.
So I started, it all started with, I was joking around with a friend of mine, and I was like, how would I write a novel? And I stood up on my bed. I remember this. I was like this tiny little apartment, just out of grad school. And I was like, I'm going to start backwards with my awards speech. And I was like, I'd like to
Oh.
thank blah, blah, blah. And that what's funny is that that novel is what ultimately became Headcase, which is, we can get into that later, but
Mm-hmm.
came around many years later. But I started writing it, and it felt like it was like this release, this sort of
Mm-hmm.
fun, when you're doing news, it's not always fun. This was really
Yeah.
fun. And it also, I realized like I'm good at this. Like it
Yeah.
felt good, and it feels good to be good at something.
Right.
So I guess that's how it all started. But
Yeah. Makes
yeah,
sense.
my first actual published book though started as a diary. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, so I went off to Russia as a journalist and had
Yeah.
a lot of dramatic things happen, and was furiously writing it down. And when I came home, all sort of traumatized by what had happened there, I took
Right.
a writing class in New York, the Gotham Writers Workshop.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
I realized that there was like a book in this diary. I
Yeah.
spent about a year turning it into that. And that's when my juices really got flowing. I was just like, I really like this
Yeah.
writing thing. But I always liked fiction. I mean, I was a
Mhm.
Russian literature major in college. And after Lying Together came out, I was actually on my honeymoon. I got this leave of absence from work, and my husband had an internship in Hanoi. And I don't know if you've ever been to Vietnam in
Mhm.
the summer, but it's really hot. And so
I would imagine.
it was like 109 degrees one day. I remember that back when that wasn't
Oh,
normal. I feel like that's becoming more normal, and
right.
so he would go off to his internship, and I would sit in our air conditioned kitchen and just start writing. And at the time I was working in morning television, and I was thinking about leaving morning television. And
Hmm.
I just started writing what became sort of my swan song of like
Yeah.
leaving morning television. And that's really how the ball kind of rolled
Yeah.
there.
That's really cool. So I typically ask people when they have been in like journalism or something like that as well, how that affects your writing as well. But it almost sounds like it kind of like made you realize like writing fiction would be more fun just because it's a little more creative.
It's just really different. I mean, I'm still
Hmm.
in my day job. I'm a
Yeah.
documentary filmmaker, and so facts still matter to me. But
Right.
um, I think writing for television actually
Hmm.
really helped me become a better writer for fiction,
That's cool.
because I think there's that understanding of being really concise with your words, being very specific with your words. You
Yeah.
only have so much time to say so much.
Hmm.
And I think that was a really good discipline ultimately.
Yeah. Keeps it succinct,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah, yeah.
What does your writing process look like for fiction? So, do you plan it out? Do you just start writing? How does it go?
Like, how much can I curse on this podcast?
Oh, however much you need to.
It's a mess. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really fits and starts. So
Yeah.
I have two kids, although one just finished his first year of college and one is about to graduate from high school. But through this all, there have been kids through most of my writing career, and dogs and cats
Right.
and all of it, and jobs. And so it's a little bit fits and starts. Where do you find the
Mhm.
time, not just the actual time, but like the mental time? And
Totally.
there are months that go by where I won't write a thing,
Hmm.
and then I'll get into something.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it just really depends. And also because I work for myself now, it's
Hmm.
like I'm currently in production on something. We're about to go dark. Thank
Oh,
God,
okay.
because it actually times out exactly with the launch of Just Emilia.
That works
But
out well.
I'm looking forward to having time in the summer to start
Yeah.
kind of getting back into it. But
Yeah.
yeah, but I'm also like I like writing with things happening around me. Like
Okay.
like
Yeah.
I like writing in a coffee shop,
Hmm.
some place where there's noise, or even in the library, just because there are people. I think if I'm like sitting in my house by myself, there's like a lot
Yeah.
of laundry that gets done. You know,
We call that procrasta cleaning in this household.
so good at it. So good at it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sometimes the laundry sounds better than like creating something out of nothing.
yeah.
um I guess, well, with this one, it's a little bit different. So actually, I'm just going to go right into asking, like, what was your inspiration for? It's a very unique premise. People have kind of already heard, like, it's a woman, but three versions of her at different ages stuck in an elevator. How, like, what came to you as the inspo for this one?
So they're stuck in an elevator, and the truth is it actually happened because I was for like a fraction of a second stuck in an elevator, in the
Yeah.
elevator where this takes place, right? The Friendship
Uh-huh.
Heights Metro elevator. I mean, it probably was like, like a jerk. I mean, it was so fast. And
Right.
two other people in the elevator with me who were very different people, racially and age wise from me.
Yeah.
Originally I thought, wouldn't that be interesting to have this interplay of these very different people and how they would help each other get out of this elevator?
Yeah.
I don't remember entirely when the switch happened, when it was like, wait,
Hmm.
actually, the hardest person to be stuck in an elevator with might be myself. Um,
Yes.
so, and then I think as soon as I got that idea, it just became really fun, right? Like,
Yeah.
how do you confront yourself when you're trapped with yourself?
Yes.
It was
That's a good question, even if you're not in the elevator.
it's a really good question. It's a really good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even though I wrote
So,
a book about it, I don't know if I have a great answer anymore.
right. I don't know if we ever completely figure that one out.
No,
We probably spent our whole lives trying to figure it out.
yeah.
But character wise, so it's kind of three characters and it's also kind of not three characters. So how did you approach like making them like their own characters, because they are different because they've been through a different amount of things? How did you approach creating three characters that were separate but also the same person.
Right. I think it was a lot easier, obviously, with the middle-aged woman and the
Mhm.
younger teenage girl, because I could sort of put myself in their shoes a lot more easily.
Right.
It's a lot harder with Millie, who's 77, because
Hmm.
obviously I haven't been 77 yet. Um,
Yeah.
and I, I'm not an actor. I've never tried to act except for like in high school in Guys and Dolls when I was told to lip sync because I can't sing. But that was like the extent of my acting career. But I kind of think it's a little bit like that, right? Where you have to
Hmm.
really sort of go deep and try to imagine what things would feel like for this person you're trying to create.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think that that's the closest I can come to is like you really just
Hmm.
have to sit with it and
Hmm.
marinate in it and just you try different things out and they feel real or they feel false and you kind of
Right.
know, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Um, the other cool thing about the story is it's kind of like a genre mashup a little bit. There's like kind of like psychological drama. It's definitely like speculative fiction. Some people might call it sci-fi since it's definitely a bit of time travel happening. Um, but also like the tone is like both like very kind of funny in a sardonic way and also like serious and emotionally reflective in other ways. So, did you know you were going to want like all of those elements, or did you kind of start writing and that's kind of just what it turned out to be?
Yeah. I mean, the latter, absolutely.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't, I when I was just listening to one of your other podcasts and he was talking about
Uh huh.
being a gardener or
Yeah.
what was it, a gardener or a what's it, the word, I'm forgetting the word.
Uh,
A gatherer, not a gardener or a maybe it was gatherer. But anyway, like pantser
mhm.
plot or whatever you want to call
Okay.
it.
Yeah.
I can't write until I'm writing. I
Yeah.
mean, like I can't my brain doesn't kind of go into that zone until my
Hmm.
fingers are on my keyboard and I'm looking at the screen. I'd love to say I could do it longhand, but I can't. But
Same.
I need to be in the process for the process to happen. So the idea, I envy people who can plot out a book. I have
Yeah.
no idea how they do that.
Uh huh.
I don't think I'm capable of telling a fully linear story, first of all. Like, none of my books are linear. I'm the kind of writer, I write myself into a corner and then I'm like,
Hmm.
holy shit, what did I do? And then I have to find a way to write myself out of that.
Yeah.
And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but that's sort of
Hmm.
fun. It's like you're going on this little adventure in your mind and you try to figure
Hmm.
out how to get out of this maze or how to get into this maze and then how to get out of
Right.
the maze. And again, sometimes it totally fails. I mean, I have two other projects that are like 50,000 words in, and I'm just stuck
Hmm.
because I
Oh,
can't figure out how to get out of those mazes, right?
yeah.
I will eventually, maybe, or maybe I'll throw them
Yeah.
out. But, it does happen that
Hmm.
go pretty deep into something and then be like, yeah, this is there's but so as far as like the genre question, I don't think about it. And I was actually so
Hmm.
pleased that you booked me because you mostly do like thrillers. It's not like I don't and I think it's hard when you have a book that isn't like a specific genre when you're trying to
Right.
publicize it because people like things to fit into boxes and so
Yes.
I was thrilled because I do feel that's just silly. I was thrilled to be on a podcast that thrillers, but
I
I
love it.
was because it's like I like that this is a mashup of genres. I
Yeah.
like that it's not fully you can't put it in a box, and which makes
No.
sense for me because it's not how I feel or think or live in this world.
Hmm.
I don't think most of us do, right? We all have
Right.
lots of dimensions and things that interest us, and
Yeah. Yeah, I really it's like speculative fiction's always really interesting to me. I think when I got the pitch, it was literally in the midst of Severance airing. And like the pitch said like, "Oh, it's comparable to Severance." And I was like, "Okay, like gimme, please."
I
um
haven't seen Severance.
it's okay. It definitely fits what Severance does. What the things that reminded me of Severance is it like very much is addressing like grief and different selves and like splitting ourselves off in the ways that we handle grief and trauma. So I think those were like the big things that were very similar in what was happening. I do really enjoy when people like use some kind of like unique like plot structure or whatever to explore just kind of like all those feelings. If you're an author, chances are high that you just want to spend your time writing and maybe reading, not thinking about social media, what to create, and what to post. And the good news is, I have a solution for you. With just 3 hours of in-person filming, you can receive 90 days or 3 months worth of social media content. The content is a mixture of videos, photos, edited reels, and when you receive the content, you also receive a PDF that's a content calendar that links to all of the content, tells you exactly when to post it, and gives you an option for captions. And if you've ever felt like you're tired of just talking about your book all the time, we will help you come up with ideas that are general content for your page that's not just all about your books. If you are tired of thinking about your social media presence and just want to get back to writing, check out the link in the description. So, and I don't know if you know anything about like parts work or internal family systems, but that it also kind of reminded me of that, because kind of the basis of IFS, which is like the internal family systems, is that you even have like, I can't remember what the number is, like maybe like 10 different versions within yourself that function in a certain way. So there's like the protector that like acts a very specific way, or there's I can't remember what it's called. There's the destructor, like there's the version that like if it's just all too much, sometimes the destructor comes through and is like, I'm just gonna ruin everything because maybe that will feel better. So it kind of helps you like have a dialogue with your multiple internal selves that we all kind of do have. What was it like having these characters kind of helping each other process just like these big things and these big feelings and big moments of their life?
No, it's a fair question, and it's funny because I like I said, I didn't go into this thinking I'm going to write X, and it just sort of happened organically. And as much as it is fiction, it is not autobiography. I thankfully did not, well, I don't want to know spoiler alerts, but
Right.
the horrible thing that happened is not something that happened to me. Well, I have had my own traumas and griefs. That's not the one.
Right.
But I do have a daughter, and I do have who is currently 17, and a mother who is in her early 80s. And I do think a lot about these different dynamics. I hear your dog, and my dog just put up his head like, there's a dog.
Wait a second.
And I think, not to reveal too much because she'll kill me, but high school wasn't easy, and for her, and it wasn't easy for me. And so I spent a lot of time sort of looking at her, looking at myself, and trying to remember what it felt like for me to be that age, in trying to parent somebody who's that age, going through different issues, but like still struggling with different things that you struggle with when you're a young woman growing up in this world. And I look at my mom aging and sort of what I have no idea really what it feels like to her, obviously, to be her, but I think about it. I think about what it looks like. And it's funny, I think when you're young, you don't think so much about being older, but when you hit 55 now, and I think about it a lot, I think a lot about like, wow, it feels like yesterday that I was 25. So that means that, oh my gosh, tomorrow I'm going to be 85.
Right.
So what does that mean? And how do I see myself? And how do I be kind to myself? Because I'm really good at being awful to myself, right? So we all, I think so many of us are, women especially, we're so good at being so bad to ourselves. And I think trying to find ways to give ourselves a little bit of grace is really hard. Really hard. And I think one of the things I loved most about these women was that they had to, they have to figure out how to love each other and therefore themselves, right?
Yes.
Not to give away too much, but You know what I mean, though? So,
Yeah, that was what I was even gonna say. That I was gonna say, without like giving anything away,
mhm.
I really did enjoy the kind of like a decent amount of the resolution was that if she or they, all of them, however we want to say it, could talk to themselves or herself nicer, a lot of suffering would actually go away. And it seems so simple, but it's so difficult.
It's so hard. It is so hard.
Yeah.
And but I like on a very personal level, like all writing is sort of cathartic or therapeutic. And
Hmm.
again, it's not my story, but there's something about forcing myself to make my character, who is the same person, be kinder to herself. I
Hmm.
think has helped me, or maybe it's actually, I mean, I have heard people say that like as you get older, you like yourself more. But
Right.
so maybe it's just a confluence of events that I spent a few years,
Yeah.
not a few years, a lot of years thinking about
Yeah.
how this one woman and her selves interact. But
Yes.
and that I'm getting older and realize that it's important to be kinder to yourself.
Right. Yeah. And it is, I was just talking to one of my friends about like I saw a quote that was talking about like what if you talk to yourself the way you would like any of your friends if they came to you with something.
Right.
And it's so wild to how hard it is to do in the moment sometimes.
Yeah.
But then like you're saying, I think when you're younger, you obviously you have no grasp of like you kind of know what you think you want your adult life to be, but you don't actually know what it's going to be like to be in your 30s and your 40s and your 50s, like all of it. You don't know it until you're in it.
Right.
And so then I think like with the version of Emilia who's like in the middle, um I feel like it's easier to look back on your like 17-year-old self and be like, oh wow, like you were doing what you needed to do to like survive or whatever. But for some reason it's like in that present moment that it gets harder to do to like allow yourself that space.
Exactly. I don't know, it's really it's hard. Life is hard,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Life is hard, and it's a little painful. To sometimes have to look at your again, looking at your future self is that is
Right.
pure fiction, whereas like,
Mhm.
my younger self, I can do that. um and I so funny story, I actually met
Mhm.
my husband when I was 14 or 15. I
Wow.
just turned 15, and then we didn't see each other again until I was 32, right?
Wow.
So but I have photos of the day we met, and I was recently looking at them and like looking at that girl, and that girl was not a happy girl. Like that girl
Yeah.
was really struggling, and you can almost see it in the photos. And I just like my heart kind of broke for
Mhm.
her, and I wanted to be like, this is going to work out.
Yeah.
It's going to be okay. And it's not going to be
Yeah.
easy, and there's going to be a lot of challenges, and life is life,
Mhm.
but it's going to be okay. And
Yeah.
how do you get that 17, 15, 14-year-old girl to understand that? I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. Again, I have one, and I struggle with
Yes.
that on a daily basis. She's yet to read
Yeah.
the book, so we'll see what she says when she reads it.
Right. Yeah, it is. I feel like the thing that's happened more for me, and I kind of like approach it from a proof or like an evidence gathering standpoint. The older I got, the easier it is to believe that like something might seem really terrible, but that life will go on and like it will improve. But I almost feel like it's harder to do when you're younger because you don't have these experiences built up that are like the proof to your brain, to your heart, whatever, that things can keep going and they can improve and that you've survived hard things
Right? There's no
before.
evidence.
Yeah,
There's no
you're just like, what?
evidence. And that
I'm
the
full of
hard things
emotions.
like will change you,
Mm-hmm.
um, but it doesn't necessarily mean for the worse, right? It
Right.
will change you in
Yeah.
different ways and make you a more complex and perhaps more interesting, if you let it, person.
Right.
You know,
Yeah. It can make you more empathetic. There's kind of all kinds of stuff
absolutely.
that can happen with those like scarier moments.
Yeah.
Um, so you kind of said you kind of observed like your relationship with your daughter and your mom. But there is this really complicated dynamic between Amelia and her mom.
Yes.
Was there something that kind of drew you toward writing that, or did it just kind of come out as you were writing the story?
I think it just came out, but I think it came out because I was looking for something that the three women
Yeah.
would obviously have in common, that they would
Hmm.
all that would impact them at these different critical points in their lives, and like what could
Right.
impact you more than something that happened between you and your mother.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, I was really nervous when my own mother read the book, because I was like, oh God. I mean, because Amelia's mom's not that great, right?
Right.
And so I was kind of like, oh no. And it was such a relief when my mom was like, I loved it.
Oh, that's
I
good.
was like, oh, thank goodness. Because
Yeah.
it's not about me and my mom. I mean, obviously,
Right.
there's always some little bits of this and that in fiction, but
Right.
it's not. It's not. I think I was looking for something very, like I said, just that
Yeah.
worked for these three women at different stages of their lives to have like to be impacted by in very different ways. And
Right.
it took me a while to actually get there, to get to this point where I was like, I needed something. I mean, so, you've got one about to go to college, one struggling in a marriage, and one struggling with her adult child. And like, what would be
Hmm.
the thing that would,
Yeah.
make it dramatic for each of them? And that's
Yeah.
kind of how I landed there.
That's a good point. It is because like the mother wound is just
Yeah.
far reaching for your whole life because you kind of have to, especially if you have a pretty pronounced one, you do have to kind of reparent yourself. You're at each stage, and there's not like reaching out to that person when you're in like a difficult stage. You just have an absence of it. That makes a lot of sense. I
Yeah,
hadn't thought of it
I
that
actually
way.
did some research. Like I've read. I think it's called The Mother Wound, actually. But I read a book
Mhm.
about what it's like for people who lose their mother in adolescence, and
Yeah.
how that impacts them. So it's not like a deeply researched book, obviously, but I did
Right.
think about that a lot. What it would mean, no matter
Hmm.
what your relationship is with your mother, what would it mean for your mother not to
Yeah.
be there?
Right.
And I think that helped too, informing how some of their reactions happen.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It really sets the stage for how you feel about yourself because she's like your same gender parent or whatever, but then also like how you interact with other women as well.
Yeah.
It has such a profound effect on that part. Um, yeah,
But it's so cute. I
it's
see I
crazy.
think that must be your dog in the
Yes,
background.
we've got one
But
switching positions.
I guess your dog must be dark with like some white spots, because it's
Yes.
like little fireflies kind of.
Yes. Just the tip of her tail just showing up. Yeah, it's just like white on the very end. She's like, I need to get comfy.
Yeah.
um, I I also loved the way that like the unique structure of this all. Um, kind of like they help the three parts of herself. It helps her address trauma that she's kind of repressed and just not wanted to deal with. Um, so did you go into the story? I don't know how much you can talk about it,
Yeah.
but did you go into the story knowing that like there was going to be something like that okay, no. Yeah.
No,
That's crazy. I mean, because it feels so fitting for like the plot structure to do it that way.
I yeah, I mean, this book was written across many years, and
Oh yeah. Hmm.
I I couldn't remember. It was funny. I was trying to figure out when I first started it, and I finally found the Word doc
Oh,
that
that's
was
cool.
like the first instance of writing it. Um,
Yeah.
so it was 2017. So that's a
Wow.
pretty good gestation period.
Yeah.
In that time, I had, like I said, I've got two other manuscripts that are pretty deep in, that
Uh-huh.
I have, jettisoned in. So it's like I was kind of leapfrogging with each of them, and I
Yeah.
finally got to a point. I think in the pandemic, when I was like, okay, pick one, just pick
Mm.
one,
Hmm.
finish one, like see which one you can do, and
Hmm.
that's how I landed on Just Emilia. That was
Yeah.
sort of a coin toss almost, of like which one I was going to push through.
Yeah. I was also thinking when you were talking about the genres and like not wanting to put the book in a box,
Yeah.
which kind of made me giggle inside because
I
it
know,
also
right?
takes place in an elevator the whole
As soon as
time,
I said that, I was like,
essentially.
wait, that's
And it sounds like mostly that was just because you were stuck in an elevator for a second too, but I think it also like that, like the really contained space kind of works like not on a metaphor level, maybe like an analogy, I don't know.
Yeah.
Where like, can you hear him scratching the
I
couch behind me?
totally can.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's, hey, are you comfy now? Okay, he laid down.
My dog's
um
passed out now. He's like, whatever. Yeah.
uh the oh the like very contained space, there's like you can't run from the things that like you've been avoiding. So did that ever, like as you're writing, where you kind of like, oh, this kind of works on that level too?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. There's like you literally can't run away. And in
Yeah,
fact, for a long time, it only existed in the elevator. And then some of
yeah,
my early readers were like, this is totally claustrophobic and you have to get out of the
yeah,
elevator. And that's how it opened up, which was
yeah.
really, really helpful because
Hmm.
it was too much just to be stuck there for
Yeah,
the reader. I mean, it's a lot for the Emilias, but yeah,
right.
it was.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, we do need, and kind of just like the way it plays to get comes together.
It's funny too,
We
like,
need
it
it,
didn't even
we need
occur
it
to
to
me, but
know.
the fact that I actually pushed through most of the writing during lockdown is kind of funny if
Oh,
you think
that's
about
even crazier too.
it, right? We were all sort of stuck.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
crazy. I wanted to interrupt this episode really quickly. I have a goal of monetizing Book Wild, but I would love to do it without having to have ads in the podcast. And one way that I can do that is through my Patreon community. For those who don't know, Patreon is a community platform that allows creators to share what they're creating behind a paywall. And so that means exclusive content or early releases. The Book Wild Patreon has two tiers. The first tier is the bookish tier, and at that tier you get all of the episodes out a day early, and you get access to our private community chat where we can talk about anything book related or TV shows or movies. The second tier is the Book Wild tier, and it includes everything from the first tier but also Book Wild's backlist book club. So this year I've been wanting to also still read more backlist, even though I read plenty of arcs, and Book Wild's Backlist Book Club felt like the perfect way to do that. We meet on Sundays. We are international right now, so Sundays are the best way to do it. And we meet on Zoom and we all pick a book and we talk about it, and then we talk about everything else we read during the month, and then we pick another book for the next month. So it's been so much fun so far, and we'd love to have you join the book club. So if you'd like to support the Book Wild podcast, you can go to the Patreon link in the show notes and you can sign up for whichever tier interests you. And if you're looking for a free way to support the show, if you can like and review it on whichever platform you listen to, that helps so much.
Funny.
Was there anything that like stood out to you as like a favorite part of writing it? Was there like a character perspective that was your favorite to write, or was it just kind of like
I
all
really
of it
got
was its own
into
thing?
there are two specific kind of disturbing scenes, but that happen, when the traumatic event happens.
Mm-hmm.
And as just sort of upsetting as they were, I think I really enjoyed writing them because I really had to work hard to imagine what it felt like to be in that moment. And
Mm-hmm.
like all of the senses that
Mm-hmm.
are involved in that moment. And
Mm-hmm.
when I look back and like, it's funny, like you can sort of, there are certain scenes when I know exactly where I was sitting when I wrote them.
Oh yeah.
And then the rest of it's a blur, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, or like even sometimes I used to, or still do, meet up with a friend in a coffee shop, like who was sitting
Mm-hmm.
across from me when I wrote that.
Yeah.
And though that scene, at least the initial part of that scene, I know that I was
Yeah.
sitting in Politics and Prose, which is my favorite bookstore, and they have a cafe underneath called The Den. And I was sitting in this awful table next to the bathroom. Like I can picture it perfectly.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I bet.
But it's kind of cool because my book launch, which is going to happen there. So I'm pretty excited about that too.
Oh, that
Like,
is so cool.
yeah. Yeah. If you're
Love
ever in
that.
Washington, D.C., by the way, it is
I
such a
wish.
great bookstore. It is just
I'm gonna have to
politics and
try.
prose. It's wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah.
And they have just fabulous events and it's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Um, there is some of the like mental health and suicidal ideation as well.
Yeah.
That it is in the synopsis, so I don't think I'm giving
Yeah.
anything away there. How did you approach writing that part of her story?
Yeah. I mean, that's easy. That's something that in all of my books that exists,
Uh-huh.
because I mean, I'm very candid about it. I've struggled with depression my whole life.
Yeah.
Um, and I've thought about it a lot. My father's a psychiatrist, so my
Oh
mother's
wow.
a therapist. I sort of live in that world.
Wow.
My husband's father's a psychiatrist. It's like,
Oh wow.
is it that my aunt is a therapist? So there's a
It's
lot of
all there.
there's a lot of that. But I think, yeah, I think about mental health a lot. I think about it,
Hmm.
mental illness, mental health, wellness,
Hmm.
all of it. So everything I've ever written has something to do with
Hmm.
that.
Yeah.
I'm also very much of the camp that we need to not be stigmatized about any of this. And I think it's
Totally.
gotten a lot better.
Hmm.
When I was a kid struggling with things, it was really a shame. And like, you didn't talk about it. You didn't talk about the medication. You didn't talk about the therapy.
Right.
And now it's quite open. And
It is
I do
better.
think
Yeah.
that's healthier. You know, it's different, but I do think it's ultimately better. I mean, I do know that sometimes
Yeah.
there sort of becomes like a competition, like who's on more, whatever.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I think that it is better that we're able
Yeah.
to talk about these things.
Yeah, we don't have to compare our
Right.
trauma. We
Right.
just kind of want to face it and deal with it as much as we can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I loved it, in
I'm
case
so
you couldn't
glad.
tell. So especially anyone, because I was hyper fixated on Severance. So there are definitely probably some
Have you
listeners who were as
watched
well.
it?
And if you were, this might fill the Severance shaped void in your life at this point.
Mhm.
Um, do you read a lot too? I always ask if you've read anything that you've loved
Okay, so
recently.
I just started. I actually like brought it next to me so I could pull it up.
Nice.
I know we're on it's mostly
Ooh,
podcast, but do you know this book? Wait,
I don't, but the
okay.
cover is so
So
cool.
the calculation of volume one, and there's a
Okay.
7-part series that
Whoa.
where's she from? She's a she's Swedish, Nordic, I don't know, Danish, something. But it's translated, and it
Oh yeah.
all takes place on one day. Like the woman
Ooh.
is stuck on one day, but the world keeps going around her. Her life keeps going around her, and she keeps having to live in this day. And
Yeah.
it's beautiful. Like it is.
That's
I literally. I
fascinating.
mean, it's tiny, right? See, like it's like what,
Oh
200
yeah.
pages. But I mean, there are 7 of them, but I think only 2 are in English. So I'm excited to get the next one. Uh,
Yeah.
but
That is cool.
I just picked it up and I got so excited about it. But I don't know. I'm also like a total geek. I made my, I was a Russian literature major in college,
Yeah.
and I made one of my book clubs read The Master and Margarita. Have you ever read that?
I haven't read that one.
Okay, it's a hard book, but it's
Okay.
totally trippy because it's got like there's a love story, there's the devil, there's Jesus, there's magic
Whoa.
realism, there's like history, Soviet real, like it's just this huge
Wow.
satire of the Soviet Union. It's got a whole bunch of politics. It's like got everything. It's
Yeah.
really, but it's really heady, and it's like hard to understand if you don't. You kind of have to brush up on your Bible. You have to brush up on your Soviet history, like all these different things. And actually, I made my book club watch a lecture on YouTube by this professor to sort of understand the context of it. But it's like
Hmm.
I love these, and like you're saying, like this doesn't fit a genre, and I'm not comparing myself to one of the greatest Soviet novelists of all time,
I mean, why
but
not?
I love that it doesn't fit a genre. It's like this completely out there, kind of got a little bit of everything kind of books.
That's
So
cool.
super fun if you're in, if you're up for like a classic that takes a lot of work.
Right.
It's not a beach
Every now
read.
and then.
It's,
Yeah.
this is more of a beach read. This the
Okay.
calculation of volume one. Um,
Yeah.
Not like a beach read romance, but just that it's not a hard read. It's
Right.
you can kind of just get into it, and
Yeah, there's not as much processing
yeah,
going on while you're reading. I
exactly.
love that. I love that though that this did you say Master and Margarita?
Master and Margarita.
Yeah.
by
I love
Mikhail.
that there's like prep you need to do.
I mean, I would just say that because I think that even though I was just like, I read it in college, which is obviously a long time ago. And
Yeah.
actually, I was, when I started college, I was a Soviet studies major, and then the Soviet Union collapsed. And so I
Hmm.
had to change my major. And that's how I
Yeah.
became a Russian literature major. And so I
Yeah.
understood the context of this novel. But
Yeah.
now, many decades later, like I needed a brush up to understand
Right.
what I was reading. Um,
Yeah.
but I have to say, given everything that's going on in our world right now, it is really, it just feels really relevant and really timely.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I could see that.
yeah.
Was there what drew you to Russian literature or Soviet studies? I keep meaning to ask.
Yeah. Well, so in high school, actually in middle school, my school taught Russian back when nobody did.
Oh wow.
And at the time, and it's funny because I've said my age, so there's no shame in this, but like at the time, it was the 80s, and it was the evil empire. And so to me, it
Hmm.
was just like really super intriguing, like, oh, I
Yeah.
want to learn this language where I want to learn about the evil empire.
Hmm.
And so I started studying, and then so I spoke Russian, and it just
Wow.
was really fascinating. And the literature, I mean, it's the best of the best. It's so
Hmm.
good. And so, yeah, I mean, and I've spent a lot of time there. I've lived there. I've worked there.
That's
It's been
cool.
years. I don't speak a word of Russian anymore. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
It's all gone out. Like I was
Keep
like
it all.
translating for Tom Brokaw once upon a time, and now I like can't even like speak a sentence.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, if you're not using it, it goes away.
but it
Totally.
does come, I mean, Anna Karenina is mentioned in Just Emilia.
Hmm.
It's definitely something that still resonates with me. And I often pick up old classics in rough times. Like during the pandemic, I reread Anna Karenina, I reread The Brothers
Hmm.
Karamazov, I reread Crime and
Hmm.
Punishment if you haven't read it, and you like
Yeah.
thrillers, like it's
Yeah.
not.
I read it in AP English in high school, so I
So
couldn't
maybe
answer
now
any questions
as a
about
grown
it.
up, I think you'll have a whole different perspective, and it's,
Probably.
yeah. And yeah, I just, they're they're smart, they make you think, but they're also just
Hmm.
beautifully written and very well.
Yeah.
You can just be there, and you feel where you are very much.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Very
I
immersive.
recommend. Yeah, but I also,
Yeah.
I mean, I like easier to read books too.
Hmm.
I mean,
Oh
it's
yeah.
not like I'm not
You
like,
can have range.
no, 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 no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, especially over the summer, looking for some. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
Totally.
was,
Like.
it's funny. So Just Emilia was published by an independent publisher,
Hmm.
and what's cool is that there's a cohort of like the summer frontlist authors, and we've over
Nice.
the past year sort of gotten to know each other. We have Zoom meetings, and I've read a number of their books,
Oh, that's cool.
and there are two that I really love that I'm going to give a
Oh yeah.
plug for. Um, and it's not that I don't not love the other ones. Actually, I haven't read all of them, but
Yeah.
wait, now I'm going to mess up. One is Closer by Miriam Gershaw, um,
Okay.
which is it's also really topical because it's a lot about race and relations and
Oh
community.
yeah.
It's really wonderful. And then the other, wait, oh my God, I'm terrible. I just, right, Chris McLean Johnson, I'm sorry, which is
Okay.
an epistolary novel between three very, very different people. And it's tiny. It's a really short, like you can read it in one setting kind of novel, but it's one of those books that you're just like, you
Yeah.
read it and you're just like, and what's cool is like, I think because it's an independent press, I think none of these books actually fit a genre specifically. Um, they're all a little bit sort of in their own realm,
Mm.
and they're wonderful. So that's been a cool experience getting to know these other writers.
That's cool.
Yeah, they're like, yeah. And I mean, they're, published by an independent press because for whatever reason, the big five were like, this doesn't fit in this box for us. And so we need to find some other
I
place.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes that's like I think if any genre that you would read, if you just keep reading so much of it, sometimes you do just need like a break from it, or like I read too many, like this is funny because I just had a podcast about it. I do like but I read a bunch of domestic suspense in a row 1 month, and I was like, okay, I need something totally different though now. So it's always good to have some stuff that like for me, like processing emotions and like ourselves at different stages in life is very intriguing to me. So that's what was very intriguing about this too. So sometimes it's nice to just like read something that's not conventional and is maybe just like one of your other interests, like it piques one of your interests.
Do you find like when you read this sort of a similar genre over, like how did that impact your sort of daily life? You're reading domestic thrillers and
That's
you're
a
like,
good
here I am.
question. um that's a good point. I don't know if it sometimes it will be, I'll be like, why has this car been following me for so long? And I'm like, I'm in the middle of a suburb in Indiana. I don't think anything is happening because of it. But then even I do other episodes with like bookstagrammers, and my friend Gare is always like, what are you doing walking your dogs alone early in the morning when your husband's on vacation? And I'm like, I mean, I'm walking two pit bulls. Like, I mean, they're mutts, but I'm always like, I think I'm okay. But there were a few times where, like, obviously it's darker in the winter at 6 a.m. than it is in the summer. So, like, they get used to, like, oh, we go at 6, but then it starts getting, like, darker and darker. And there was someone, like, I literally were in a town where, like, it's farms and then like warehouses and then like vinyl villages all over the place. So I'm literally walking in a park that's like in the middle of a bunch of warehouses, like Amazon
So I would be
warehouses.
terrified.
And I just
Perfect set
cannot.
whole number of things. That sounds horrifying to me.
Yeah. So it was like when he brought that up, I was like, oh damn, you're right. He was like, Kate, we read thrillers. What are you doing?
Right.
So I did. I was like, maybe we should wait until it's completely light outside, because there like was someone there one of those mornings, and I was like, oh no.
You're writing too, right? You're working on your own book.
Yes,
Is it a
I
thriller?
am. Yeah, it's so my like short pitch is that a girl, I mean, she's like in her early 20s, is working for basically a pop culture magazine. And she gets this, she kind of has like she's known for her column where she kind of writes like snarky write-ups of like certain celebrities. And someone reaches out and asks her to do a piece on their daughter, and it's this like overly popular, like huge family reality TV star basically. And when she was in college, she saw this daughter named Kaya kill her best friend Rory in college. And because they were so big and the family so wealthy, she knew that she couldn't do anything about it. So she kind of had to like get herself to move on with her life. But now they're asking her to come do this piece on them. And she's like telling everyone around that her like, I can handle it. It's going to be fine. But she's definitely saying yes to it to go try to, because they want her to like live with them for like a week or something. And so she's going to try to get the evidence and actually finally avenge her friend's death. So that's what I'm working on right now.
That sounds awesome. I'm like, I wish it was a true story, because we're looking for a new film project to
Oh, really?
to develop a documentary, that is. Like,
oh yeah
that sounds great. But
yeah
so you're a plotter then, right? Like you've figured out what this story is.
So it's interesting when you were talking about the plotting versus pantsing, is like, I definitely do. Like, the first time I talked to Ashley Winstead, she talked about Story Genius. And when I read that book, I was like, it all of a sudden made sense to me. I was like, oh, that's how you could write a novel. There is like a structure and a format to follow. I definitely wrote all the time when I was like elementary school, middle school, high school, and then just didn't in adulthood until recently. But when I read that book, I was like, oh, okay, like this helps me understand like the emotional plot line versus like the external plot happening. And it made it make a lot of sense to me. And then I read Save the Cat Writes a Novel, and that even more gave me structure. But what I did start realizing was like I was trying to outline literally every single scene, and it was getting to a point where I was like, I think I need to just start writing. So I still think you would probably call me, I'm like closer to a plotter than a pantser, but I also realized I needed to just like start writing. And then I was having those moments where it was like, oh, I didn't plan that, but that came up. And so it's kind of like both. I've heard people call it like a tent pole method, like, like your inciting incident, how you break into the second act, your midpoint. Like, I definitely knew all of those. I just didn't outline I stopped trying to outline every single
Right.
scene in between those points.
Right. Which probably makes for a richer experience. Actually, for
I think
you
so.
writing it, right? Because
Yeah.
like letting your mind kind of wander a
Yes.
little bit more. But
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, so because I was again listening to some of your other
Uh-huh.
shows, and as somebody trying to write a book, you're talking to all of these different authors, and like, does that help you or hinder you?
I think it's helped me. Because one of my big takeaways is there's not just one way to write a book. So I also I would love if the world was black and white. There's the part of my brain that always wants to be like, oh, this is exactly how you do something, or like you either do this or you do that. And so the main thing that was coming to me, even like in that first year of doing it, I'm in year 4, I think, um, was like, oh, there's just not one way to write it. And so I think hearing how many different ways people do it
Yeah.
helped me get over the idea of like, how do you become a novel writer, or how do you write a novel? It helped me not be so rigid about it.
Yeah. One of the best things, there's a woman named Susan Shreve, who's an author. She's written a million
uh,
books. Um, and she had 4 kids. And I remember somebody
oh
asking
wow.
her how she wrote. And she was like, I have 4 kids. Like I
Yeah.
literally like, when I have a second, I sit down and I write. And I
Yeah.
think that sort of gave me permission to not have to feel
Yeah.
like I have to get up at 5:30 in the morning and cram in my hour before the kids get up or whatever, that I
Yeah.
sort of figure out how to weave it into my life rather than
Mm.
be so structured about
Hmm.
it, because it just wasn't working for me. I'm not a morning person, first of all, so getting up early was
Well, yeah.
yeah.
That could be hard to try to do that.
No, 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 not gonna work, not gonna work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hallie Sutton mentioned a book, and now I can't remember the title, but she explained the concept to me, and the idea was it like the title is something along the lines of like fitting writing in
Hmm.
as like a busy woman, like is the gist
Yeah.
of it. And it's about like when you're standing in front of the microwave waiting for something, like instead of scrolling, write a paragraph. And like the idea of like what you're saying, like it doesn't have to be, oh, I wake up every morning and write for an hour, or I write until I hit 1,000 words. And for some people that might work.
Yeah.
I know like Jamie Lynn Hendricks has always said, like, I think hers is maybe 1,500 a day.
Wow.
But she also doesn't have kids, like, which she even points out. And so it's like she can just wake up and be like, I just write until I hit that, and then I move on.
Hmm.
If you have like anything else going on, I think it probably is more sustainable
Yeah.
long term to be able to tell yourself like, it's okay if I just write 2 paragraphs. It's okay if I do it while I'm like waiting to get my oil changed or whatever. So I've been trying to like think about it more like that, because I also essentially work for myself too. So like that never stops at a certain, it doesn't like stop at 5 p.m. So I've been trying to incorporate that a little bit more too.
It's funny, one of my writing groups, we used to call ourselves 266 because that was the number of words on a random page, that we
Oh,
selected at that moment. And
yeah.
we call ourselves 266. And the idea was you just had to write 266 words a day. And actually, Just Emilia was very much written with that. And usually you sit
That's
down to write
cool.
266 and you keep writing, but some days you don't. And you then
Mhm.
throw in a lot of adjectives to just flesh it out so you don't feel bad. But it's doable. It's funny though, because now our name is SFD, which is shitty first draft, which is
That's good
also
too.
helpful because we can all get way too precious with things. Like
I know.
it's so easy to just not write.
I know. Yeah, I always try and remember every now and then that quote circulates Instagram again, where Jordan Peele talks about like he tells himself the first draft is just getting the sand in the sandbox so that later he can make sand castles. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's what I need to tell my perfectionist,
Yeah.
that part of myself that still lives in my head.
It's kind of fitting is actually, I think a lot of novelists are perfectionists.
I bet.
We all get in our own way way too
Hmm.
much. You
Yeah.
have to figure out how to let yourself write it, that, shitty first draft or
Right.
whatever. It just won't happen otherwise.
I know. It's kind of like starting anything new in your life. You're like, oh, I have to go through that part where it doesn't feel magnificent.
Yeah.
But if you want to do it, you're just gonna have to get through that part.
Yeah. I can spend
Yeah.
hours on a sentence,
Right.
like not to move forward, right?
Yes. I know. I've been thinking about starting a Substack too, so that it's like I am forcing myself to write something every week or every other week. And I was like starting in on it yesterday or last night, and I was doing the same thing. I went back and like reread the first paragraph, and then I was like, this would be better. This would be better. And I'm like, I need to just write it all out, and like
Yeah,
then I can edit. Like,
cool, but what do
I'm
you
just
think?
not gonna write.
What are you thinking your Substack would be? Like, how would it
Okay.
differentiate from all this?
Yeah. So here is a quick pitch of it. I really loved The White Lotus. I mean all the seasons, but this year too. And so I was also listening to the companion podcast that they had.
Mm-hmm.
And Mike White, for anyone who doesn't know, is the creator and the writer of it. And he was talking about this season, the third season focused a lot on spirituality, religion, and kind of like your own personal version of spirituality as well. And he was talking with the hosts about how he kind of thinks story is his religion.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, it sounds really dramatic. And he's like, but I'm getting choked up even saying it. And it just like resonated with me so much. And then I was scrolling TikTok like within that same week. And this account got put in front of me. It's called No Nonsense Spirituality, if anyone is intrigued by it. And I actually have my notes here, but she basically talks about religion from a sociological perspective. And that's how she's approached it and how she has studied it, essentially. And someone had asked the question, so like if you think religion was created from an evolutionary perspective to like help us feel good in life, are atheists actually better off, or are they struggling, or agnostics, either way? And so her answer, she said that from an evolutionary perspective, religion provides community, ways to experience awe and transcendent moments, rituals, ways to interact with your subconscious and conscious self, and a way to process death. And I personally kind of like deconstructed my religion in my 20s, and now I'm in my 30s, but something kind of clicked when I heard her say that. And I had just heard Mike White talking about how story is his religion. And I was like, maybe it's not so woo woo to say that, because I started to realize that stories have provided me a sense of community. I've like connected with so many people with this. I very much experience awe and like transcendent moments, especially, I don't know if you've seen Sinners, but we saw Sinners in 70 millimeter IMAX. And one of the scenes, like, just like goosebumps the whole scene. And I'd even seen the movie before now on 70 millimeters, but like I've definitely experienced awe and transcendence through story. Rituals, I talk about stories at least twice a week, every week. I read them, I'm writing them. There's definitely like rituals built into my every week now around it. And then ways to interact with your subconscious and conscious self. I've had so many breakthroughs, like watching something, reading something. Especially in my 20s, it was helping me. I grew up in a very emotionally stunted, as a pastor's kid as well, I guess, is like the rest to complete that. And so especially in my 20s, there was stuff that like I just didn't even know what I had been missing in my childhood. So many stories and TV shows, whatever, helped me also process those things. Because sometimes it's what you didn't get that can be just as traumatic as what did happen, basically. Yeah. So I feel like stories have helped me even find some of those things and then heal it. And then even a way to process death. I've like, your Just Emilia even goes into that. So it's like, I've read about different people's journeys with grief or with trauma or losing someone. And I feel like it's helped me understand like what death means to me, or how how I would process it. So that being said, that's I'm basically saying the first entry that I want to write, and then I'm thinking of then talking about ways that stories each week did something like that for me.
I love this. I
I have It's just
really
been in my head, and I'm like, I need to write about it. This would be good for a
And
Substack.
there's so many things. I know we're probably going over time, but like I
Oh, you're fine.
love this. And it's funny. I was just talking to somebody from my other hat as a documentary filmmaker, and we're studying
Yeah.
for a new project. And so we've been spending some time talking to people who are involved in psychedelic medication.
Oh, yeah.
And the one of the things with people, it seems to be really helpful for a lot of people who have PTSD. And one of the things is like when you're on these trips, you're going back into your story, kind of reliving
Mm-hmm.
your story and confronting your story. And so it is all about story. And then if you
Yeah.
think about that, like this is all happening in your brain on a
Yes.
chemical level. So like whether the story is coming because you're taking a drug or because you're
Uh-huh.
reading a book or like you're writing something, it's like all sort of operating in this. I don't know. I think
Yes.
you're onto something.
Yeah. And then as I was kind of writing with it, along the lines of what you're saying there, is like then I was realizing like all religions have like a religious text that is just a bunch of stories.
Yep.
So like in the same sense, it's like even if you are a believer of a certain religion, it's also like story that's like
Yeah.
teaching you that religion or explaining that religion to you.
Absolutely. And like
And I was
really
like,
great
this is,
stories.
yeah,
It is the Bible, but it's the
psychedelics is
Torah.
really fascinating the way that can rewire. I think it helps so much with neuroplasticity. I think is what the thing is. It helps you get out of the neural pathways that have been just like burned into your
Right.
brain.
Because you're telling yourself the same story over and over and over,
Exactly.
and it's giving you a different way to tell that story, right? And telling
Yes.
you, I think it's absolutely, I haven't tried it myself, but not
Yeah,
that
I
I'm not
haven't
open to
either.
it, I just haven't.
I definitely am open to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm like, how do you say, like psychedelic curious?
Right. Yes, totally.
But
I
I,
know. I mean, sometimes it's so hard to do without intervention. I mean, like I take an SSRI even. So it's
yeah.
like
So,
we know that there are things that can help you have a better quality of life even
right. Yeah.
from a chemical
Stories that these
standpoint.
people are telling us are just like
I
incredible.
bet.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to tell me when that comes out.
Well, we haven't done anything. I don't even know what we're doing with it.
Okay.
We're just in the my partner and I. We spend a lot of time just talking to people to try to figure
Yeah,
out
that makes
what
sense.
we're doing, and then I don't know that we are or aren't, but it's a really
Yeah,
fascinating process because
that is
I'm
cool.
learning a lot along the way. Yeah,
Yeah, that sounds
it's really
fascinating.
incredible, and it's really incredible just to see how it's shifting so fast. Like
Mm-hmm.
in terms of what's legal and what's not. Um,
Right.
yeah,
I know, that's the hard part.
yeah, it's
We all just need
crazy.
to live in Colorado
Yeah, exactly, exactly,
so we can have access.
exactly. Oh
Um,
gosh.
well, where can people follow you to stay up to date
Oh
with
my
all of
gosh.
this?
Yeah. So, well, I have my website,
Hmm.
jenniferoko.com, which I'm trying to get better at making better. Um, it's funny because, I am not a digital native and I'm trying to get comfortable with social media, and I think I'm
Yeah.
doing a little bit better.
Yeah.
I am on TikTok and Instagram.
Hmm.
And I'm having a younger person help me with some of this, and it's been really great because I kind of needed somebody to push me and say,
I get
"Do
it.
these things that are weird and uncomfortable."
Yes.
Oh, speaking of which, I told her, wait, I'm going to turn on I have my phone over here. I told her I'd take a little bit.
Yeah.
If it's all right with you.
Totally. Go for it.
Second, where is it? I told her I'd take a little bit of a video of you and me. Wait, see? So that's been really fun. I mean, it's been pushing me way out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And
It's a whole other thing.
the whole other thing, but I know you talk a lot about Bookstagram. I'm just sort of like dabbling in the waters and trying to
Yeah.
understand it. But I love, and TikTok too. Like, I love that there are all of these young people who are obsessed
Oh,
with books because I
I
really
do too.
worry about the future of the book. And I don't care what genre it is. Like, everyone
Right.
just needs to be reading. You need to have your mind challenged, your imagination challenged. And so I
Yes.
love that book talk is huge and that
Me
Bookstagram
too.
is huge. And I'm not like fluent in it, but
Right.
I'm trying. So yeah, so people can
Yeah.
follow me on TikTok and on Instagram,
Yeah.
and Facebook, sort of, I guess, but like that's mostly like personal stuff.
It is.
Yeah, and my website.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, so this is the other thing. Like the whole writing the book thing
Hmm.
is a very, very different thing than
Yep.
this part of the journey.
Hmm.
This is what I was telling you before. I'm like, oh God, I never wear makeup. Like, what am I gonna? And I actually have two like local morning television appearances. And even though I used to work
Oh,
in
yeah.
TV, like because I used to work in TV, I know you're supposed to have like a face full of makeup.
Right.
They don't do your makeup anymore. I'm like, oh no.
Really?
So I'm gonna have to figure out how to like plaster stuff on my face.
Oh no.
I know. And I've actually been like going online. I'm like, I got like a contour thing. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like,
I have never been able to figure out contour.
it
Like I don't even wear foundation anymore, just like because like I just moisturize and that seems to be enough for me. Uh but I've never been able to contour ever.
I don't even know what I'm contouring. I'm like,
I know.
it's just so I just figure, well, I guess I'm just gonna look really washed out on TV, but so be it.
It happens to me too.
Lighting's good. I don't know. Like I don't know what to do. I'm like, oh, what do I do with my hair? So I'm all stressed.
Yeah.
That's like my big. People are like, "Are you excited about the book coming out?" I'm like, "I'm really worried about these morning shows."
Oh my
I
gosh,
don't
I know.
know.
Well, and so many authors are more introverted too. So like I feel like that's the other part of the challenge.
So awkward. It's so awkward and it's so uncomfortable. And I've now done it a few times, and I really never have gotten comfortable with it. Partly because when my first book came out, when Lying Together came out, it
Mhm.
was my wedding was at the same time, and
Oh wow.
so I wound up getting a lot of attention, right? And
Oh yeah.
I had two friends actually tell me they were worried that I was developing a narcissistic personality disorder because I was promoting myself so much. And I'm like, but
No.
how am I supposed to? And so I'm very self-conscious of it now. It's like kind of
That's
got this
weird.
in my bonnet of like, oh, I'm supposed
Yeah.
to talk about my book. Oh, that's weird. That's
That's
uncomfortable.
annoying. Yeah, like
Yeah.
you have
It's like
to.
20
Like
years
it's
ago and it's still like, yee.
I get it though. It's a big word to throw at you.
Yeah. And I get it. Like, I mean, I'm like, how much is too much? How many
Yeah.
posts about the book is too much? And like, what's going to hit? What works, what
Mhm.
doesn't? And, obviously, my friends or family are my biggest promoters, but at some point they're going to be like, okay, enough about just,
Right.
yeah, I'm kind of getting sick of it.
Yeah, that
So,
is the we help people with social media and we're always like telling people to like what you're saying. Like sometimes you don't always want to be promoting your product, your service, whatever it is. So it's like sometimes it is about just like showing up,
yeah.
doing other things even because what you're saying, you don't want to talk about it all the time, but you still need to talk about it.
You do need to talk about it. And I'm so grateful to you because honestly, this is
Yeah.
the very first time, this is like my first thing that I'm
Podcast.
doing
Oh yeah.
for Just Emilia, the first sort of promotional
Yeah.
thing. So you're like getting my feet wet and getting used to
Yeah.
talking about it because I haven't really talked about it very much
Right.
since I wrote it.
Oh, I'm glad I could do that. I think Rob Hart said that last year too, that I was like the beginning of his tour. And I was like, well, let's dive in.
No, it's great. And like, I was so excited again when I watched your a few other podcasts, and I was just
Yeah.
like, oh, you seem like somebody who is just so easy, and you are so easy to talk
Thank
to.
you.
So that makes it very comfortable
That's
to
good to
start this
hear.
journey. So thank you.
'Cause I still get nervous when it's people I haven't met yet. So I get both sides of it, but I think it also helped me. I was just telling my husband this last night. I think now when I look back, I'm like, oh, it has also helped me realize like I can handle talking to people better than I thought I could. And like it does get easier each time. But I know what you mean. Like when you haven't really talked to someone yet and you're like, oh no, how is this gonna go?
Have you had some that were just like, oh God, I can't really run this?
Thankfully only two. I did end up publishing them, but I had, and I'm just going to be vague, I had co-authors where I think I had like 11 questions written out. And like, if I think of other questions, I'll still ask them. And it was 9 minutes. And that was all I could get. Like, I remember going into it, I'm like, I don't think I need more questions. Like, there's two of them, 9 minutes long. It was 9 minutes long. And I got off and I was like, that was so awkward. And then I had one other that was like about 15 minutes. She was also like a debut author, and I think in her early 20s. So like I got the vibe she was just very nervous.
Yeah.
But thankfully, I mean, I'm on episode like, I think this will be 272. And so half of those are authors and half of those are bookstagrammers. But so I've done well. So I've only had two happen like that. But since they happened, then you're always like, okay, I hope this person wants to talk with me.
Yeah. You're really good at it. I mean,
Thank you.
I do that professionally on the other side, right? Like I've
Yeah,
interviewed people for decades now, and it's hard. It's hard to get people talking sometimes.
I bet.
So,
Especially with documentaries too. Like I'm sure people are like, it takes a second to get them warmed up.
yeah. Well, yeah. Sometimes, yeah. News is
Yeah,
worse because, like, usually when you're doing a documentary, like people are into this, like they know what they're doing.
that's true.
They want to share their story. There's like an advocacy part of it usually that they're trying to, but it was more like
Right.
with like news things, like yeah, trying to get people to express. But no, it happens. Actually, I take it back. We had a horrible interview with somebody recently, and that's not going to make the cut because it was
Yeah,
pulling teeth and it was awful. So never mind. It does happen.
it happens.
It
It
happens.
happens every now and then.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that we got to talk,
Me too.
and I hope the rest of your press tour does
Thank you.
does well and isn't too intimidating.
Thank you.
And I hope you don't stress yourself out about contouring.
Yeah, I think I'm just not going to do it. I think it's just we're just going to be
I'm
flat
team
and
just don't
fuzzy.
worry about it.
Yeah, I'm not going to worry about it. It's going to be what it is. They can make what they want
Yeah.
with it. Yeah.
Yes.
No.
Well, thank you for coming on. I loved our conversation, and everyone needs to go read this one.
Thank you so much. It was really fun talking to you.